All right. So, if any of you have dealt with the tics that David Sedaris has suffered from, which is the same as Billie Eilish, it makes you kind of feel more like connected. Like, oh shit, I'm not the only person. You know, these people out there who are, living big lives have been suffering from the same thing. So we can feel comfort in knowing that you can be successful with these things that at one point in our lives felt like it got in the way of everything that we did. And that's my favorite part about the David Sedaris. I don't know if you've ever heard or read about David Sedaris. He's one of my favorite authors of all time. When he comes to town, I'm very excited to hear his work. But he kind of puts a very human, light twist on what he experienced, and he makes light of it, even though technically, it's not funny. He gives us an opportunity to go, oh, okay, I get it. Very much like when he was talking about his lisp in the other readings, where he brought to us this feeling of comfort knowing that, oh, I do too, and we can laugh. Is that okay? Because I just want to cry and I'm so sick of this, blah blah, right? Like, I'm sick of all this. But he has found ways. Okay, so it was cigarette smoking, unfortunately, that helped him ease it. But that's just his way of getting through it. So I'm not suggesting that. I don't know if that's necessarily the right answer. Again, David Sedaris writes of a different time, but at the same time, it gives us kind of like a little bit of understanding. I do admit David Sedaris is a little bit not behind the times. He's a little bit, he's different. So anyway, long story short, I really do appreciate his work. There's that quote from Martin Luther King Jr. who says, if you want to change the world, pick up a pen and write. And that's what we're going to be doing in class, is sharing our personal experiences. And that's when we talk about being vulnerable, sharing these things that we hid, that we were embarrassed of or felt mortified over, when in reality it's human. It's this is what we experience. And if we don't share what we've experienced, one, we don't get that opportunity for connection, and then others might not get the opportunity to hear your side too. So that's what we're going to be doing with our narrative, is just sharing our experiences and using composition in that way. How do we write? Who are we as writers? And what is it we write about that makes us so human and connected with one another? So anyway, be mindful of that. Feel free to explore when you're doing your narrative and feeling comfortable understanding that many other people suffer from the same thing. So, tics are, I'll give you kind of a quick, if you weren't quite sure what it was, maybe sudden twitches or movements, or, sometimes sounds. Sometimes we might make like a clicking noise with our mouths, or like a ticking, and it's a thing that helps us to maybe calm down, self-soothing, maybe uncontrollable. There's just these different ways that our bodies are beautiful, and our minds are beautiful, and we're just trying to learn how to live on this earth, let's be honest. And sometimes we have soothing things that help us. For me, if I get wildly anxious, I shake. I do this thing where my body goes into hyper mode, and I'm shaking, uncontrollably shaking. But it soothes me. It sounds really weird. When I have a massive anxiety attack, that's what I do. My body convulses, and it sounds weird, but it's what puts me at ease, which seems weird that shaking would calm me down. But if ever I'm like in that mode, the shaking takes my brain away from the thing that's being affected, if that makes sense. So everyone has their own way of handling stuff. So sometimes tics come from all kinds of different things. They're due to usually, let me rephrase this. Some causes are thought to be due to changes in parts of the brain that control movement. They can run in families. They are likely to be genetic in some cases. And they often happen alongside with other conditions, such as attention deficit disorder, and so forth. So there's many different things that can cause tics, whether it could be traumatic, it could be genetic. There's all kinds of different, reasons for this. And it's very natural. Everybody does it. And so there's sometimes I wish someone had told me the stuff that I suffer from. I wish I had known a long time ago what it was, and I didn't have to feel alone in it. So hopefully this is helping you. Tourette's, by the way, that's what Billie Eilish suffers from. It's a neurological disorder. It's characterized by sudden, repetitive movements, and sometimes unwanted movements, right? Vocal sounds too. We make these little noises in our mouth, these little sounds. What else? So there's a reason that, and okay, you guys ever seen the movie, what is that called? Deuce Bigalow. Yeah. Okay. So if you've ever seen Deuce Bigalow, The Male Gigolo, it was a '90s movie. The '90s, it's not funny anymore. The '90s aren't as funny as I think they thought we were. Anyway, and one of them makes fun of both Tourette's and narcolepsy, and these disorders that, I mean, if you suffer from them within your community of fellow sufferers, you can joke and laugh about it. But when someone takes it and puts it on the movie screen, it really kind of degrades it. And it gives those, like, say, I don't know what do you call it, Tourette's or narcolepsy is, and I'm watching this, and I know it's a comedy, and I know it's hyperbole, but at a younger age, I'm looking at that going, is that what that really is? Like, not understanding the truth behind it. And so this is why it's important to be mindful of, mental illnesses or physical things, because when you make light of it in such a way, it's not really that funny. And it also gives a preconceived understanding of what these things are and, how people might be suffering from them. So anyway, Deuce Bigalow wasn't even that good of a movie. But anywho, for some reason, it was the thing we watched when we were in high school. Whatever. I'm not suggesting watching it. You could, but you're going to be like, oh, that's not funny at all. And I'll be like, yeah, I know. Shallow Hal is another one where you're just kind of like, wow, that's a really gross movie. That's just terrible. So anyway, don't watch them. They're not really worth it. Anywho, it's really important that we are mindful of these sorts of things as we move forward. Okay, so make sure you're, next we're going to read Black versus Black, the capital B versus lowercase b. If you can't get to the New York Times, I do have a Google version, so you can click either one. So just make sure that you read it. And what I would like you to do is take a really quick quiz after to understand why this matters and why it's important that we try and figure out, how do we want to be identified as? And then you're going to see why we still kind of struggle with this. So go ahead and take that quiz and I'll be right back.